Here are 13 UFC fighters with terrible physiques. Number 1 is Taylor Willie, who weighs a staggering 450 pounds. That's 3 of Conor McGregor's. Just for comparison, his first and last UFC fight was at UFC 1, where his opponent brutally kicked his teeth out. And this is how Willie remembers it many years later.
When I think back to that time, I can only think how lucky I am that my brother threw the towel in.
If you think this guy was the heaviest, just wait until you see number 4. Before that giant, we have John Matthew, whose final record of 1-4 may not be impressive, but his weight, 400 pounds, is more than fabulous. It's easy to think Dana signed him just to beat the shit out of that fat ass.
He hit the ground very hard. Oh Lord.
Let me introduce you to Tim Sylvia, a 6'8" tower who weighs over 300 pounds. That's like 4 Mighty Mouse Johnsons. Tim's record is 31 wins and just 10 losses. Let me tell you, Tim is among the top 100 MMA fighters of all time. That's impressive, and if you don't agree, you can
taste my pee, okay?
Alright. You have waited enough for the fattest man in the UFC. Emmanuel Manny Yarbo, who weighed an insane 716 pounds. You may expect some cool comparison, so here you have it. That's 6 of Mighty Mouse Johnsons, 5 of Conor McGregor's, 4 of Israel Adesanya's, and 3 of Brock Lesnar's. And here in the picture, you have it in comparison with Miley Cyrus, with just 100 pounds. Manny held the Guinness World Record for the heaviest living athlete. He was so heavy that airplanes banned him from flying.
World champion sumo wrestler flying to Italy, banned from a Delta flight not because he made a disturbance, but because of his size.
I could see if I just tried to get on with one seat, then they would have an argument. But this is an instance I had 3 seats paid for. So that's what mystifies me even more. I don't understand, like, even at 700 pounds, if you spread 700 pounds over 3 seats, this more than accommodates it. So I really don't know, like, what the problem was or what the problem is.
Unluckily, at the age of 51, he died from a heart attack. Manny had one fight at UFC 3 and got whipped out by TKO. Just imagine the strength that put 700 pounds on its ass. Okay, that was enough for fat fighters who just lost. It's perfect time for fighters who use their weight and dozens of pounds to beat the shit out of each other. The only fighter who is proud of his belt is Royal Nelson. Even though he looks like an average British man in his 50s,
That's a big belly.
he managed to finish Mirko Cro Cop, one of the best heavyweights in the history. Roy had one big controversial moment when he kicked ref Big John McCarthy.
I had a big conversation with John in the back about, doing his job, and apparently let this, Bigfoot doesn't need to take any more blows to the face.
I don't know what you think about this accident, but one thing is for sure, and it was the very first leg kick Roy has ever thrown. Roy Nelson lost the fight for the fattest man in the UFC to Daniel Cormier. I knew Daniel way before I knew UFC, thanks to this one single ad.
Because I'm all about that cake and chicken. I'm all about that cake and chicken. I'm all about...
DC was always criticized for his terrible physique. Standing at 5'9" and weighing around 250 pounds sounds like a problem, especially if you face giants like Stipe Miocic or John Jones. In the same time, this may be the reason why Daniel Cormier is the greatest pound-for-pound fighter. No height or reach advantage, just battling out with the giants of the UFC. Daniel's response to fans who called him fat is not what you would think.
People want to talk, oh, you're fat. Well, shit, okay. I'm fat and I'm happy. And guess what else? I can be whatever I want, honestly, because it's up to me. If I'm comfortable with me, I don't care if you judge me. And that's what I want to tell these people that say I'm fat. Okay, I am. So what?
Need a break from fat heavyweights who eat all day. This pick will be controversial. Nate Diaz is skinny fat and his physique is terrible. Nate used to be one of the most shredded fighters with a fat percentage hitting 5%. The physique was
creme de la creme right here, I'm coming for you.
But after 2020, he turned into some skinny fat hybrid and the whole devolution he picked when he fought Jake Paul. Coming back to heavyweights because we have unfinished business. Do you remember DC and his advertisement?
I'm all about that cake,
Derrick Lewis is the only fighter who doesn't want to fight in the main event because he would have to fight 5 rounds.
5 rounds? Y'all f***ing me up with that. Come on, 3 more. Just 3 rounds. I don't want to be main event. F*** all that. Just let me get 3 rounds.
Derek is known for being one of the funniest guys, but at the same time, he consistently delivers great performances. Lewis has been featured in 11 main events. His hack to longevity is priceless.
What do you think has been a key to your longevity?
At first, I thought it was Popeyes, but now they're telling me that it's not a good idea for me to be eating Popeyes whenever I'm almost 40.
In 2022, the Black Beast was defeated by another proper fighter, Tay Tuivasa. Tay is known for drinking beer after a victory. Seriously, Bam Bam, that's his nickname, has won like the only one in this list by flying knee. If you weigh 270 pounds, landing such a knee is on another level. Bam Bam has to work as a pizza delivery boy.
It's time, I'm here. Make sure you order your pizza pasta tonight. I'll be popping through.
Some people say it's thanks to Dana White saving every penny, but I really wonder how many pizzas went missing. Now, another Samoan, specifically the Super Samoan, Mark Hunt, the man who hates the UFC the most.
The UFC, yo shit, you motherfuckers don't look after nobody. You just go here, throw this motherfucker, this freaking stupid fucking Samoan under the bus, and they don't get the best in front of the whole world, and we'll let this fucking white piece of shit fucking...
But Dana White doesn't really understand why, considering Mark Hunt made a lot of money in the UFC.
Mark Hunt's made $6.5 million fighting in the UFC in his career. Guy's never had a title fight. Listen, sometimes you got to protect these guys from themselves. And that's what we're looking into right now. You know, you made a statement that I've hated him forever. I don't hate Mark Hunt at all. I never hated Mark Hunt. He knows that. I was actually really good to Mark Hunt.
Mark is arguably one of the smallest and fattest UFC heavyweights. But for some reason, he has always fought against the most masculine and tall guys. It looks like the matchmakers bullied him. Tankabot was already mentioned in this list in the beginning of the video in his tough fight against John Matua.
Yeah, well, first of all, it wasn't a tough fight.
Wow, okay, sorry man, my bad. Tankabot in his prime has typical dead body type. Even though his belly and chest were not typical for an athlete, his trapezius muscles were insane. Tank fought back in the early days of the UFC and was known as the hardest hitter.
There's only one man in the world that can beat me, and that's myself.
The old generation was somehow special. Even with those extra dozen pounds of fat, they were able to finish 4 guys in one night.
You're either a winner and you're confident, or you're a loser and you're cocky. Whatever you want to say about me, big deal. I know who I am, and you know who you are. I'm here and you're not.
Nowadays, fighters look like models, but fight only once a year. Unluckily, Tankabot is now just a shadow of his past. Tank went through 6 strokes, which left a significant impact.
Hello everybody. Nice to be here and sit down and chat. Yeah. I've traveled a long road, and it's good to be here. Trust me. Trust me. People don't know it until you face it.
Next in line is James Mulhern, who signed a multi-fight contract with the UFC.
I've currently just been signed and approached by the UFC and signed a 4-fight deal with them.
But only had 1 fight because he tested positive. Matchmakers probably realized this fat pig is not UFC material. In one time, James' record was 10 wins and 1 loss, which is more than fabulous, and I'm jealous of that. But in the same time, I still wonder how this physique could make it to the UFC. And just by the way, why does his face look like Alexander Gustafsson's and his body like Andy Ruiz Jr.? I'm sorry, the next fighter was never in the UFC, but the video wouldn't be complete if I didn't Eric Ash, or if you want, Butterbean. I hope you understand. The myth, the legend, the 500 whose neck made Mike Tyson's look small. Eric was primarily a boxer, a 4-time world champion. Eric had 25 fights in MMA. The super fight was supposed to happen between Mark Hunt and Butterbean. Mark Hunt was replaced by the gigantic Sean O'Hare. Butterbean showed unmatched strength and put a 6'8" giant to sleep. There is to be a discussion about another super fight and against Mike Tyson, but Eric had different plans.
Totally retired. There's a lot of talk about me in that fight with Tyson was actually already offered to me, an exhibition. But I know when it's time. You know, I'm old. I got grandkids. I got 9 grandkids. I'm just enjoying life right now, spending time with my fans and family, and I'm enjoying life. I have nothing to prove. I mean, I've done what I want to do in the fight game.
As far as we know, they are good friends. But Eric didn't let us down and had his great super fight in Jackass.
You guys touch gloves and come out fighting.
Unfortunately, those hundreds of pounds left an impact on Buttersbean's body.
I'm straight as I go, man. I'm pushing on it.
Now we leave the UFC for the good. And let me tell you about the last fighter on this list. His nickname doesn't fit much because the so-called Little Zulu weighed 450 pounds and stood 6'8". Zulu didn't have a great UFC career, but his emotional expressions will always be attached to our hearts. Zulu was put against 5'9" Ikusi Minowa in a fight called Does Size Matter? Well, and the result is, it does.